Precovery with Liza and Rayne on Just FM. Last week, the wonderful producers down here came and brought me in and asked me to introduce myself to the world, uh, what I'm attempting to do, and the places I've been and the places I'm going. And today, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about my take on addiction and where that actually lays on the scale between choice and disease. A lot of people have asked me over the past week several times for my answer, and it's a fairly unpopular opinion depending on where your answer is. Your opinion's always going to be unpopular with somebody around you, anybody around you. Most people have this opinion that, it's a disease. Quite a few people have the opinion that it's choice. As far as I'm concerned, an opinion is an opinion, and it's nothing more than just that. An opinion doesn't make you right or wrong, it just simply makes your opinion different. Personally, for me, I always kind of felt like it was neither. After spending so much time as a drug addict and an alcoholic, 14 years actually, I spent as a drug addict and alcoholic, I came to learn something really, really interesting about myself, something that I had been told over and over again, but until I actually learned it for myself, until I actually sat there and accepted it for what it wasn't something that I had an actual knowledge of. I had heard it. I had heard it said to me several times through the course of the last 14 years. And even in hearing it, I didn't believe it. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to move forward with my life. I didn't want to do things to make myself better, because as far as I was concerned, everybody telling me this was wrong. And it was simply that I had no coping skills whatsoever. I had zero coping skills. I had zero communication skills. I quite literally lacked the ability to walk into a room and say, this is what I need, and, how do I get it? I could walk into a room a million times over with those words sitting in the front of my mind, and I could walk into these rooms and say, hey, this is, I can say this to myself, and I can say, hey, this is what I need, where do I go from here? But to actually verbalize that to somebody else for fear of, rejection or fear of just not being accepted completely was absolutely debilitating. And without those coping and communication skills, I had no way to move past that. I had no way to work forward. And I found that in having no coping and communication skills, my disease of addiction was more or less a symptom. It was a symptom of not being able to speak. It was a symptom of not being able to handle basic life things. I feel like in the process of cleaning up and getting sober and finding myself again and finding sobriety and learning these necessary coping and communication skills that I didn't have before, I've now been able to provide myself with a new way of life and a new outlook on things, and that symptom of disease, as I would put it, is no longer so bothersome. I think that a lot of times addiction is very much overdiagnosed as a disease when it's more or less a symptom. It's a symptom of life circumstances. It's a symptom of chaos. It's a symptom of basically not being able to handle basic life things as they come along. If we could handle these basic life things, if we could teach our children and our youth, if we could teach the people around us, if we could teach our friends and family, basic coping and communication skills, well, maybe we could start a new wave of precovery instead of recovery. If we could get people to a point where they're talking about things, where they're trying to work on things, where they're trying to fix things before they ever need drugs and alcohol, then we've already beat the problem. I noticed a lot of the 12-step groups that I was going to, and I've attended a number of different ones for different reasons. Some of them are, world-renowned, and some of them are basically a smaller type of group created by an individual in hopes to make some changes. During my visits to all of these group meetings, there was one thing I noticed that I found to be bothersome. And that was that in order to be a member of one of these groups, a requirement for membership is that you are currently and actively, an alcoholic or a drug addict or, gambling addict, sex addict, whatever your vice may be. They require you to be in a state of using before you ever come to those groups looking for help. And to me, that seems counterproductive. I mean, honestly, if you're looking to stay sober, if you're looking to not know that feeling, if you're looking to not, ever have that taste of alcohol, then you have nowhere to turn to. You have no 12-step group for life. There's no 12-step group for, hey, guess what? I'm going through a major divorce right now, and I don't think I can handle it, and I can't handle everything going on around me. There's no 12 steps for that. And without finding basic recovery from life things, we have no hope of staying sober, until we actually relapse or until we actually fall into this illusion that drugs and alcohol will make us happier. Personally, for me, I was a drug addict and alcoholic from the time I was 14, and I ran away from home. And once I started running away from home, I continued to either use drugs or use alcohol, or even both, through the course of the last 14 years. My life since I was 14 has been a chaotic disaster. It has been a mess, and I was very quick, obviously as a drug addict and an alcoholic, I was very quick to pass blame to those around me, which I probably very easily could have, said, well, this and this life circumstance, and, I'm not at fault. Recently, what I did for myself was I turned around and I said, what if I looked at this as everything was my fault? Even if it wasn't my fault, let's look at this as this was my fault, and where could I have changed things? I started to develop some basic communication skills that helped me to discuss things with my partner, to discuss things with my mother, to discuss things with, a number of different people who I had burnt bridges with. Now, through the process of communicating with one another, of understanding, basic coping skills for life, I've now come to a point in my life where if I have a problem, I can easily sit down with somebody and I can say, hey, let's, instead of this being you versus me, let's be you and I versus the problem. My life has come together incredibly over the past 4 months, and I have found levels of communication and coping skills and sobriety and happiness above all things that I've never known in my life. I have come to this point in my life where I'm now wanting, and I have a hunger for a better life. I'm not stuck in the same hamster wheel, every day doing the exact same thing and going, well, do it again tomorrow. I have settled and accepted, I've settled with and accepted my pending divorce. I have settled with and accepted some lost friendships, and even some gained ones. And through having better communication and coping skills, I'm now able to maintain healthy relationships with my friends. It's not a fight to talk to them during the day and for them to say to me, hey, let's go out and do things, and me, brush them off and lie and say, oh, well, I'm sick. Or, I have a headache. Oh, I can't go out tonight. Oh, I can't come swimming. My bathing suit has a hole in the knee. I had some terrible excuses, and I know that for a long time, that was really affecting my entire ability to do anything. My ability to give excuses was better than my ability to communicate and say, hey, I can't come out with you because my anxiety's through the roof and I don't know how to deal with this. Now, through developing some communication and coping skills, I can now sit with my friends and I can talk to them and I can say, hey, I would love to go out for dinner with you, but that bar is incredibly busy and I'm just, I'm not feeling it tonight. Do you think we can go somewhere else? And we do, and we go out to these fabulous restaurants, or we go camping or hiking or whatever the case may be, because now I have the ability to say, hey, this is what I need and how do I get it? And through developing that ability and through developing appropriate communication and coping skills, I'm now living life. I've gone from being homeless for 9 months and losing my entire life to now I have a wonderful partner, and I have a job coming up, and I have this wonderful Saturday morning experience with you guys. I have a dog, I have life. I haven't just found sobriety, I have found within myself the will to live again, and I'm not just simply surviving anymore, I'm thriving. A friend of mine in high school came by one day, and I had been in pretty rough shape. I had been into a physical dispute with a partner I was with, and this friend of mine came and asked me if we could go for a walk, and they said to me, "Are you okay?" At which point, I kind of did the bashful, threw my head to the side, and I said, "I'll survive." And he stopped and he put his hand on the side of my face and he said to me, "Surviving is great, but you gotta learn to love yourself so you can thrive." Those words stuck with me so hard and for so long. And to this day, it still blows my mind how incredibly right he was. I hated myself. I hated the person I had become. I didn't like having to go out to places and meet people because I didn't like myself. I didn't like having to go out to the bar for drinks with my friends because I didn't like me, and I was like, well, what if they don't like me too? What if they're asking me to come along because they have pity for me? And these are basic thoughts that go through everybody's mind, especially somebody who's stuck in a cycle of self-abuse. For me personally, I was stuck in a cycle of self-abuse for years and didn't even realize it. And people would say to me, "Oh, you gotta learn to love yourself," and I'd say, "I love myself just fine." And I didn't. Truth be told, I didn't. I hated the person I was. And, I'll never forget the person I was, because I definitely don't want to go back to that today, but nothing could ever make me want to be that person again. A cycle of self-abuse is a very vicious thing to have to go through, and until you actually realize you're in it, it's difficult to actually get out of it. But through hearing my friend's words and through having a better understanding and a better knowledge of what he actually meant when he said those things, I've turned my focuses inward. I focus now more on myself, not so much selfishly, but making sure that I'm doing right by me. Because if I'm doing right by me and I'm not imposing on anybody else's basic human rights, I don't have any reason to lay my head down on my pillow and hate myself at the end of the day. You spend the most time with yourself. You talk to yourself the most, you encourage yourself the most, and you are your own worst critic. Far be told, you are your very worst critic. I was very critical of myself coming into this, and even today I struggle with some things, and I will find something in my life where it's not quite, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and slightly OCD, but I'll find something that I'm not completely happy with, and my partner will say, "Why are you stressing this? Look how amazing you're doing." And I'll say, "Yeah, I know, but," and I devaluate myself, and I'll go right back every time to that, "Yeah, but." And a lot of people who are stuck in a cycle of self-abuse and who can't communicate enough to understand that they are, or communicate enough to know that they need help, they need to get the help, they need to develop a basic understanding of how to talk to people, they will always be critical of themselves. They will always be stuck in that cycle of self-abuse. Even today, getting up this morning, I washed my hair twice because the first time I did it, it didn't quite look right. But you live with yourself every day, and you tell yourself these things every day. And the more negative things you tell yourself, the harder it's going to get. While I was out in Kelowna, and while I was out doing treatment and doing recovery, I developed a lot of skills. Some I still use, some I do not. Coping is different for everybody, and you just have to find what works for you and stick with it. Coping is different for each and every individual, and while some things work good for some people, it might not so much for other people. I have seen people do sports for coping. I know an individual who will get angry and they will literally run. And they run and run and run, and that's all they do. They joined a running club because they get angry, they want to vent. Where do they go? They go running. I personally, I'm not the running type. But, if you are, go for it. Get out there. Go running. I am a writer, and through the process of rewriting a 12-step program to basically cater to a better, more positive and healthy mental frame, then, through that, I've been able to help myself recover through writing and through expressing myself. And sometimes I attempt to date. I hear that those kinds of things go hand in hand. I personally am not good at it, but my kids think it's hilarious. That in itself is coping skills for me. Some people don't have any coping skills whatsoever, and I was one of those people. And quite often people would say to me, how do you get through your life? How are you still functioning? How are you still surviving? And I would say, I'm doing just fine, thank you. And I was not. But truth be told, without any coping and communication skills, my entire life was chaotic and disastrous. It was terrible. And I'd constantly fight people on that, and they would say, you have no coping and communication skills. And I'd say, that's because you don't listen to me when I talk. Or, I have coping skills, but they're different than your coping skills, so you should recognize my coping skills. Justification. Justification is a huge thing in addiction, and I justified myself often. Way too often. But through the development of these skills, I've gotten to a place now where I don't have the want, I don't have the urge, I don't have the desire to go out and use drugs and alcohol. I have, over the past 4 months, basically gotten rid of any cravings I had, which is phenomenal. And if I start to get to a point where I feel like I might be craving drugs and alcohol, I might be craving something to help ease whatever tension is in my life, I go right back down to my book where I've been writing, and I sit there and I start reading through it, because that's my coping skill. That is what I'm good at. Other people, they get to that point, they start running, and by the time you're done, focusing on whatever it is you're doing to help remind yourself why you're still doing this, you are emotionally exhausted enough that you don't. It's more of a tired. You want to go back to bed. You're like, wow, that was tense and stressful, and I'm glad I remember why I'm still here, and I think I need a nap now. A lot of people who develop coping and communication skills before they ever fall for the illusion that drugs and alcohol will make you happier, they are very successful people, and they can go their whole entire life without using drugs or alcohol. There is no reason that we shouldn't have groups available for people who are not yet drug addicts, who are not yet alcoholics, who haven't yet fallen into this illusion that drugs and alcohol will make you happier. There's no reason that we shouldn't have groups for people to say, hey, come forward if you feel like, you think this is going to help you. If that's a thought in your head, if for 1 second you even wondered if they might help, come talk to us. We're here to help. Let's do this together. Let's do this as a team. Let's work together to ensure that our youth, to ensure that our teens, our children, or whatever, can cope and deal with daily life before, their friends get to them, before society gets to them, before that illusion gets to them, before they sit there and wonder to themselves, hey, maybe this will make me feel better. Let's give them other reasons to feel better. Let's give them running club. Let's give them football practice. Let's give them writing classes. Let's give them whatever they need to help cope, to help communicate, and to help understand that there is a better way. I have spent the last 4 months rewriting this program. I have spent the last 4 months learning coping and communication skills, and through my time writing and through my experiences, I have come to love life again. And I sincerely hope that you all follow me on Saturday mornings and follow the inspirational stories that are coming, and follow these tools that I'm going to be helping to teach people. And I sincerely hope that if you are in a place where you feel like drugs or alcohol might be your best option, that you come forward and you get the help you need first. I promise you, I've been there. I have done the drugs, I have done the alcohol, the gambling, all of it. I've been there, I have done that, and I promise you, it does not make you feel better. If you are not doing so good today and you feel like you need a hand up, always here to chat on Power of Positivity Recovery page. But for today, I hope each and every one of you finds within you what you need to stay sober, and I wish you all a blessed day.